Okay, hi everyone. We are back. Hello, beautiful people. Thank you for being here. And today I'm really excited because we are talking with Lois Hollis, and she is a practitioner working with the release of shame and guilt and helping us understand and her clients in the world understand how this is probably one of the biggest things, one of the biggest blocks we have in our spiritual progress. So welcome, Lois.
Thank you, and quite an honor. It's an
Oh,
honor to be here. And
oh,
thank
oh.
you for this gracious gift to your audience as well, because shame and guilt hits the spiritual aspect more so than the emotional. So I'm talking to an audience that really can supercharge their spirituality with this information. So blessings to you.
Oh, thank you. And I am very honored that you're here, and I can't wait to dive in. Let me read your bio real quick, and then we will dive in. Okay. Lois Hollis, RN, BSN, REV. Is that Reverend?
Reverend.
Reverend,
Yeah.
okay. And BSN is?
There's a bachelor's in science and nursing.
Thank you, thank you. Okay. Is a shame, guilt educator, counselor, filmmaker. Lois shifts our opinion on one of the most taboo subjects, shame and guilt. As a trailblazer, she helped create one of the first kidney hemodialysis units in the USA in 1966. Wow. Today, Lois establishes shame guilt as an independent study. Her 50 years experience in health, 15 years research and counseling bring capitalized new knowledge of these misunderstood conditions to release us from shame, guilt, blaming. Lois's first film, Out of Discord into Harmony, I love that, was released in 2008 and teaches how to communicate with your inner self. Ooh, I think I'm gonna cry. Her new film, I'm Good Film, all in caps, just released, makes shame, guilt visible. Lois lectured at the Wharton, WHIRTON School University of Pennsylvania, Temple University, and other conferences. She shares 3 books and gives us readings from the spiritual realms of the Akashic Records. These readings help us out of the shame, guilt abyss of unworthiness. She was given a death sentence at 55 and now thrives at 77. Lois shows us how. Oh, wow. I'm
I know.
I'm almost speechless. Okay. So that really got to my heart. Please share with us how you started in this work and your journey up to now. You don't have to.
Well, I'm
Course,
78 now, so I could take over 3 hours, but that's
right.
Not the main focus.
Right.
God led me, so that's the truth. Anyway, I had very little memories of my childhood, even though I was a very successful nurse, like starting the first kidney unit or working in open heart surgery in its infancy. And I was always there. I was always, inventing and achieving. And it wasn't like I had to, it was just the motivation within me. And somewhere around 45 or so in that area, I got very, very depressed. Like my world sunk down, and I was married and had 3 beautiful daughters. And then, with the ability to see things, my childhood memories start coming back to me. And I was very, very abused. So much so that I had a near-death experience somewhere around 6 or 7 or 5. I can't remember, but that happened when some psychiatrist asked me, "You are too well not to be raised by the parents that abused you." And he was correct, because I was functioning, but I had so many emotional issues that were coming up: depression, anxiety, suicide, etc. It was like totally, depressed. And I couldn't understand that either. And then all of a sudden I saw this hand coming out of someplace. And instantly I remembered what happened. And then I said, oh, my aunt lived across the street and I visited her after school. Like, we're talking about 1970 something. If you mentioned you had a near-death experience and saw God, they put you in the mental hospital, because I took care of people in the mental hospital that had Kundalini experiences. So you don't mention that to a therapist. I just said, oh, my aunt, Ray, saw me a lot most of the time. And I got up and left because, I couldn't say a word at that time. Now you can say that, but 35 years ago, you couldn't say that at all.
Right.
And then the next day after that, I had a Kundalini experience where all this light came into me. So I was remembering things, and I remembered my childhood where I couldn't read and I couldn't write. And I stuttered, and that was all because of the brain traumas I had. And backwards thinking, I met a chiropractor healer in my 40s, and he was able to bring my broken body back to health. And he had to repair C1, C2, and C3. C1, C2, and 3 were broken. And God sent me back. I remember someone just crunched my neck and broke my neck.
Wow.
I remember that now. But, God sent me back. And I always remember 3 beings in my room. And I think that's how I learned things, because I couldn't read or write because of all the trauma. I remember the teacher, what was a nun, it was the Catholic school, came and asked my parents to come to the school. I was one of 4 children, and they told my parents, and I remember this very well. They told my parents I was an idiot child because I was not able to read or write. And they would keep me in school because they were a Catholic school, but I would be placed at the back of the room because I was uneducatable. And they told them, don't save money for her education because she's not teachable. Wow. And that's because I had Eren syndrome, IIREN. I just discovered that when I wrote my book, is that when I took a book in front of me, all the words would move. Mm. And that's a sign of brain trauma. And then I would ask the nun, how do I stop the words from moving? And she slapped me because she thought I was joking. So the next day I turned the book around, because I'm very creative, to see if the words would stop moving. And that's when they called my parents in and said that she's unteachable. So the only thing I wanted to do, Sharon, was to tap dance. I had the incredible, every day I would follow my parents around and say, I want to tap dance, I want to tap. I mean, they got so sick of that, they got me lessons. And I tap danced from probably 7 years old all the way up to high school. And I think the right brain with all the left brain. So I was considered an idiot child that was unteachable, which was really a blessing, because yeah. I tap danced while they were teaching in the chair, because I love the tap dance, and the right lane, breath lane were healing, because I was able to pass all the exams and do well. And so that's the only excuse I have, is that the tap dancing saved my life. And the most incredible experience was, and I received a letter from the University of Pennsylvania that I was accepted into their college. And that's an Ivy League school. So it was like, I must be smart.
So much for being an idiot, right?
Yeah. So anyway, that all surfaced, but I was had scoliosis extremely, like down. My shoulders were rotated in, and I had migraines for 30 years, and there was just no reason for them except I had such severe headaches. And anyway, so I tried chiropractic, and they said there's really not much they can do because all my bones were solidified together. Like when I would drive the car, I'd have to turn my body to look at the oncoming traffic. So, and then I got thrown out of yoga class or asked to leave. They said, you're poor. Yeah, I'm serious. The gym wouldn't let me stay because I was huffing and puffing because I had a mitral valve prolapse and a leaky valve, which they say could not be operated on, but I didn't want to because I was a nowhere nurse in the operating room, and I'm going, you ain't gonna do that to me. So my left ventricle wasn't pumping because the valve was leaking so much. And it was true that I had a very short lifespan because if your heart's not pumping well and you have a fatty liver and you can't breathe because your lungs are so compressed with the scoliosis, they were right. So
yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, but I didn't feel sick. It was interesting because I had these diagnoses as a nurse, I understand, but I didn't think I was sick. I don't know how to explain that, but it wasn't like I was doing mental therapy or anything. I just never felt sick, even though I have all these problems and they're deadly, but it didn't feel sick. It didn't register. Eventually, I was recommended to see a chiropractor healer. He does different kind of a chiropractor where it's more specific and deeper. And he said he could help me. And I laughed because like they throw me at a gym class that the chiropractor tells me there's nothing we can do for you. Please leave. You're bad. You're not good for business. So anyway, I healed. I mean, it took years, and we got married, by the way. So I had broken jaws. All my jaw was broken here. I had 3 or 4 brain traumas. My skull, and all of a sudden I remember one time I was like a baby, like maybe a year old. And I remember someone holding my feet up and banging my head on the floor because my whole cranium was kind of smashed in. So we're talking major problems, but I'm okay now. I mean, my dearest husband fixed every bone in my body, my eyes and my teeth and my kidneys and, anyway, so
that's amazing.
It's a miracle.
Yes.
But also my body has a regenerative quality like all of us have. However, now we go to the emotional issue. Well, obviously, if you have all these traumas, you have emotional issues. And I was depressed, I was anxious, the whole gamut of negative emotions. And I thought, if I keep going to therapy for depression for a year or two, and then anxiety, and then hatred and suicide, I'll be dead before I'm well, because that's, so all of a sudden I realized that shame guilt was, someone says, what do you do about shame and guilt? I go, I don't know. That's a strange word. I was in Sedona at the time. So I went to the library and looked up. We didn't have internet at that time. And it was John Bradshaw's book that said it's the sickness of the soul. And then through my connection with spirit, I came to learn many things. And at that point, I was helping people talk to their inner self, like high depression, how are you? High anxiety, how are you? I was already doing that work. And then I just added the shame guilt work to it. And everybody got well, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 sessions, like they totally changed because I got to the root of it and I could see shame and guilt, how it affect all of us. Shame guilt's not an emotion. Shame guilt's an energy that affects our emotions. And that's why we've been slaves since Adam and Eve.
Oh,
So
that makes so much sense. Yeah.
So what I'm bringing to the table today is this is the real truth. And that's why I made a film, because I was giving lectures on these things and people going, Lois, what are you talking about? I'm going, can't you see this? I did not know that people can see what I see.
Yeah.
Because I've been talking to spirit since, I don't know, forever. So that's why I became a filmmaker, to make what I see visible to other people. So
That's amazing.
shame, guilt, and energy is a green, black, bleh. And it's not of humanity. It's a demonic force placed upon humanity. And shame, guilt, energy, when it comes into us through words, either from ourselves or from other people, it comes into our bodies, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual bodies. And it's like a computer. You know, we are a computer. We have the ley lines and so forth and so on. We are energy beings. I don't have to convince you.
No,
but,
you don't.
You know, but it's interesting that when a virus comes into our computer, what happens? All the systems go bad. And my computer may have this wrong and your computer may have that wrong, but it doesn't matter. It's just the nature of the beast. You get a virus in your computer. And how do you fix your computer? Well, you get a virus removal program.
Right.
So we need a shame, guilt removal program. That's it. Okay, now, when shame, guilt comes into us, it affects our emotions. It turns our positive emotions to negative emotions. We are already intuitive. We already have compassion. We already have all that we need. It's just that the energy turns it or flips the switch to negativity, like compassion turns to depression. Intuition turns to anxiety. Passion turns to anger. So I thought I was like the happiest person around, because I was like, I don't have to go to therapy for all these things. All I have to do is get rid of shame and guilt. And then all the emotions turn back to positive. I'm going, why don't people do this?
Yeah. Good question.
So that's what I was doing. I was helping people find the shame, guilt. It's like, you know, when you clean the house, you can't say all the dust get out of the house and all the paper on the floor. You have to physically go pick up the paper, put it in the trash can, take it. That's how shame, guilt is.
Right.
We have to find it to get rid of it. Okay. Shame, guilt, energy only has one defect. It dissolves in detection. Now we know why they made it a secret and you don't talk about it.
Right.
Oh, we don't talk about that. It's taboo.
Because it's not real.
Correct. It is real. It is here.
But it's not of God, so it's not real.
It's not of humanity.
Yeah, or humanity, yes.
It doesn't belong. When people never, if you learn anything today, never say my shame.
Right.
Never say my guilt. Never own it. It is not yours to own. It's a demonic force placed upon humanity to devolve us. That's it. And that's a whole nother story. But people say to me, well, why is shame, guilt, energy so heavy and strong, and love and light is light and fairy? I said, because it's the densest emotion there is. Right. Or the densest energy. I'm sure you saw Hawkins' table.
Vibrational frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last one is shame.
Shame is on the bottom. Yep. And
I'm sure in your experience, you've had people that were suicidal or committed suicide. And what do they say? Shame. I'm better off without living here because the world would be better. I was there, I know.
Yes, yes.
So shame is next to death.
Wow.
So it's such a beauty to talk to spiritual people, because we, more spiritual people,
Hmm.
have more of a problem with shame guilt than other people that were denser. Now, the reason is most of us have a very open space for spirit.
Hmm.
A lot of people don't. They have like this. Shame guilt energy comes through the same line that we have that brings in light. So if you have a large opening for light, you're going to have a large opening for shame. Not that you've been shamed a lot, not that it's just that you can hold more shame than somebody that has a smaller energy field. Okay.
Okay.
Now, but the good news is that we're so porous, we can get rid of shame so easy.
That's very good news. Yes.
Denser people have like, I can tell because I work with them for like 6 months or 7 months. People like you, I work with maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, and you get it and it's gone. It's
Mhm.
like miracle. So that's the blessing, but you got to know it.
Yeah.
But you have to know that. So shame guilt energy turns our mental faculties from clarity to confusion. Whenever you're confused, you're in shame guilt energy, and it affects every organ in your body. That's how I was able to heal, because releasing the shame guilt, my ley lines, my meridians were functioning properly to get the right energy to my organs.
Wow. This is amazing. Mhm.
So people that say shame is bad and guilt is good, I'm like, no, there's no healthy poison. Now, why is it shame? Why
How
is
can
it?
guilt be good?
Oh, you wouldn't believe the people I talk with. They're like, oh, you have to have guilt. How are you going to be more? I said, I do things because it's the right thing to do. I'm not going to do it because guilt is pressuring me to do it. Like all this
No.
that mask and all that stuff over there. No,
Yeah.
make your decisions on your well-being
Right.
and God, not on guilt. But
Yeah. And
that's what
also,
go
yeah,
ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Lois, but also what my peeps tell me is, and if if you make a decision that maybe not is in your highest good or something like that, accept it and say, okay, well, I made that decision. It wasn't something that maybe was helpful for me. Don't feel guilty about it. Move on and correct it. But don't feel
Exactly.
guilty, because the guilt is what, is in that same arena that
Vibration.
you're
Now,
talking about. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. Now, shame is in the unconscious mind. And we cannot realize that because it's like when we wake up, or,
Yeah.
It's hard to find. Guilt is in the conscious mind. Oh, we can do guilt just like that.
Totally.
It's right there.
And I
Now,
have to say that, and sorry to interrupt you again, but I'm writing things down as you're going, because I'm like, oh, I want to talk about this, I want to ask with this. But I was raised Catholic also.
me
And
too.
okay. And nothing, because you mentioned that. And that's there, as you know, that's where that guilt, a lot of that guilt
Okay.
is.
Can I do a
comes from.
sidebar right here?
Of course.
Okay. Now, in my removal of shame guilt in my life, all of a sudden I'm like, I don't know, 8 years old, 9 years old, standing in line to confession. I'm like the 4th or 5th person, and everybody's, waiting for the priest, And then all of a sudden I start crying, like I'm crying really hard. So the sister nun comes over. She says, why are you crying? She wasn't like, oh, honey, why are you crying? She says, why are you crying? And I said, I can't find my sins.
Yeah.
And she said, what do you mean you can't? I said, I can't find my sins. And you told me that if I don't confess my sins, I don't love God and I'll go to hell. I don't want to go to hell because I can't find my sins. Okay, I'm a 7, 8-year-old child. I'm from 100% Polish family. I go to school, come home, eat, and I pray and I talk to God, Okay, now I'm sure I did something wrong, here and there, but like it wasn't a sin. And I'm keep trying to find, they go, well, if you think something bad, maybe you sin. I'm going, well, then I went crazy because I'm like, I can't think that. I can't think that. I was actually going insane trying to find my sins.
That's awful. Yeah.
Isn't that terrible?
That's terrible. I went to Catholic school too, not a lot of years, but as a child. And then not all nuns are mean, but I did have a couple of mean nuns. Like,
Yeah. So
yeah.
I was able to go back to the 5-year-old, make friends with her. Her name was Joy. And we talked and talked. And I said, do you see any black things on you? And she said, yeah, there's black things all over my arm. So I asked permission if we could take the shame guilt off. But you have to ask the inner critic first if you can take it off. So we took it off, threw it away. And honestly, I felt so much lighter, but I had to find it to get rid of it.
Right. Yeah.
And the inner parts of us carry it. We don't. Our emotions carry it from the emotional timeline that we have.
So when you say find it, do you mean you find where it comes from, like the experience or anything like that, or just find it in your body or in your awareness?
Emotions tell us.
Okay.
Like, that's why I made out of discord into harmony. I show people how to talk with their emotions, and the emotions release the shame guilt. I don't release it. I help them release it because they're the ones. It's not like I go to, I see people going to therapy and I'm going, you're talking to the wrong person. You're talking to a 6-year-old. You need to talk to the 10-year-old that's sitting there crying.
Yeah.
So that's what's wrong with therapy today. They're talking to the wrong person. But only you can do that. So it's a self-help. You're talking to yourself, and that film's 20 minutes long, and it's I had kids actors, and it's just so much fun to listen to, and kids love it.
So I'm going to put all that information in the details on the bottom where we can find that film, because I definitely want to watch it.
Because you have to have a visual of this. Now, so shame is in the unconscious mind and guilt's in the conscious mind. Now, as a nurse, medical person, if you have a virus in your brain, they call it meningitis. Okay. If you have the same virus in your kidneys, they call it nephritis. If you have the same virus in your stomach, they call it gastritis. So it doesn't matter what the root cause is. It messes with your brain, because meningitis and nephritis are really the same. You can do the same treatment for it because it's the same virus, but they make it more difficult because they give it different names.
Gotcha.
Okay. So that's what they did with us, making shame is bad and guilt is good. And your mind goes, I can't get that because they're one and the same. I was trying to find a word for it. I can only say shame, guilt.
Okay.
Because it's not shame and guilt. That's so important, because our mind and our emotions start coalescing into shame and guilt as a one energy field.
Yeah, they're not separate.
They are not separate. They make us want it to be separate, whoever they are, but it is not separate. It's just that the medical community can bill for different diseases that way. That's why they separate it, because I get so many people because look, I have depression, and don't you tell me how to manage it. I want to get rid of it. And I said, yes, you can, but there's no such thing as managing anger. No,
you don't manage it.
You don't manage it. You get rid of it, but you get rid of the shame, guilt, not the emotion. But anyway.
Right.
So the important thing is to know shame, guilt energy doesn't belong to us. It's a parasitic energy. We don't need shame, guilt energy. Shame, guilt energy needs us. Why? Because it feasts off our light. Now, if you wanted to devolve humanity, who would you target first? The people that have the most light. I mean, why would you go for ground beef when you can have a steak?
Yeah.
So, and we are so sensitive. So it's so important for us at this time in the world is for all our beautiful, loving selves radiate the most light we can possibly do. So it's so crucial now for this information to be out there so spiritual people can bring the light out. And it's covered, not destroyed. It's a cover. And the shame guilt, you just take it off and the light just flows all over the place.
Nice.
And then you're not really bothered too much because you're not really worth it. You know, too hard. Shame guilt energy is too hard to get to you, but you know the jig's up.
The jig's up, right? You know about it, and you know where it's
right.
Well, I would think that you know when you maybe start feeling, or if it tries to get its tentacles in you again, you know.
Exactly. Now, why do I call myself a teacher, an educator? Because we don't even know what shame guilt behaviors are. Because it's normal behavior. Right? That's true.
Well, so, we think it's normal, but it's really not.
Of course it isn't, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so,
I do, yeah.
So that's, what I do is to help people to know what it is. But also we're so sensitive that you feel bad. When you feel bad, that's shame guilt. So like sometimes I'm talking on the phone and somebody's doing whatever, like this, go, I just throw it back to them where no, take it. So that's the best thing. But, it took a while to learn what it was and then find it. And then energetically, you can get rid of it, but don't try not to take it anymore. And never say it's like a shame because it's raining today. I can't have my barbecue. We use those words and you're calling the shame to you.
So just take the word shame and guilt out of your vocabulary, basically. It doesn't
belong there.
Yeah.
Now, remember the Wizard of Oz? As, Dorothy has to go to the all-powerful Oz, and she's so scared, and she finally goes there, and, all this pomp and circumstance, and the music, and the machines, and the smoke, and then Toto draws the curtain back, and it's a little old dumpy man with gray hair making a big machine and making a horn, and that's shame guilt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, that is helpful because I say, okay, you're all puff and smoke, but I know you're there. And all of a sudden it goes.
Nice. I love that.
So that's education. The education is it does exist. Shame, guilt are the same. They're not separate. And it dissolves in detection. Now, one of the very beautiful things that people that have more of a spiritual nature about them is that when I helped my, let's say my 7-year-old release the shame, guilt that she was carrying from the confession and the nun and the priest and everything, that goes back to other lifetimes. Shame, guilt, I think, is karma. I think it's just another word for karma. The karma you carry from lifetime to lifetime is shame, guilt, energy.
Yeah.
So isn't it exciting to heal your life and be able to extract that shame, guilt, energy from your lifeline, your timeline?
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
Also, when I figured this out with God, of course, my mother and my auntie, who were in spirit, came to visit me. And they were so grateful for me doing this work because they were also lifted up. So shame, guilt, energy is generational. They talk about being generational, but they just talk about the mother, the father giving it. But I'm saying on an energetic, spiritual level, when you release the shame, guilt from an emotional aspect of yourself, you make that connection. You don't get it, do it. This emotion does it because it's narcissistic to tell the emotion what to do. The emotion has to want to do it. and that's the healing.
Right.
So when that is removed, it affects your timeline back and the timeline forward.
Forward.
Isn't that powerful?
That is very powerful. And I see that with my work too. Yes. So thank you for confirming that. It's amazing. I've always said that this type of work, and shame guilt comes up so much in my work with past life therapy. Definitely.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, that this is the most important thing we can do for our spiritual progress. I've said that for, always said that. So thank you so much for confirming that.
Yeah. I 99% of people I have worked with for 10, 15 years, it's present. I don't like to go past life because then it gets so complicated, and I'm not a, I deal with what's here.
Sure.
And then when it's here, then it just sparks back and forth. So it's like really cool. I mean, if someone wants to do past life, I just recommend them to somebody like you, because it's not my forte. However, there was one person, she was Japanese, and she's American, but she has a Japanese there. The shame guilt there is like over the top. And we did session for a while, and we did her depression and anxiety, and she was progressing. But the anger part was just like, she says, Lois, I just can't find anything. I'm going, well, it's there somewhere. And we just, it was like baffling to both of us. And then all of a sudden, when she was waking up from her sleep in the morning, she called me and she says, Lois, I want to talk to you. And I says, okay. She says, I want you to help me with this. She went back to Egypt in her mind, just, was able to do that. And she said, I see this sarcophagus and I'm going to open it. I said, okay. And that was her anger part, was so solidified from all the teachings that she had to put her anger part away. And that anger energy just came back, which is her passion. And so it's not uncommon to have to go there, but usually not. But that was like, wow. And she totally changed. She changed her job. She had a new focus. She divorced the guy that was mean to her. I mean, the whole life changed because she had her passion back.
Nice. That's beautiful.
That was like, wow. That was just so cool. But, that was very just cool. Awesome.
Have you seen any of your past lives?
Oh, my goodness gracious. I can flip back so easy. I mean, I lived in Sedona because that's where the healer was. And every time I drove by Bell Rock, it was like, oh, now I'm in Greece. Okay, now I'm going, okay, dear God, please, can I concentrate on the road?
It's definitely that energy there. The reason I asked is because I just see you as a nun. I got to tell you right now.
I was in a cloister. I wasn't able to talk.
Okay. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, I was one of those. And now I just talk all over the time. I do all these podcasts. Please let me talk.
You're making
I got to make up for lost time. I was a nun. No. And one of the times I had angel come or something come into me, and I was dealing with it, and I flipped back. I'm a little kid, 4 years old, walking the streets of Athens with the shoes falling off and this and that, and I talked to the kid and and then we made peace, and then it came back into me. So I mean, like, yeah. Wow. It just happens. It's like, okay, God, can I need to 140 here, Can you hold a minute?
Yeah. That happens to me too. Yeah. I was driving to Seattle not too long ago, and I had a repressed memory of childhood come up as I'm driving. Good thing I was stuck in traffic, but it was a very intense memory.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, it's thank goodness God was had very kind. My higher self was very kind and did it brought it up in traffic. But but it's interesting, Lois. I got to say, I'm meeting so many people that where we have kind of parallel experiences in our life. I was also remembered being abused as a child, and I had 3 caretakers that would help me and heal me, that would that were in my room and take me to ships and things like that. And I had near-death experience at the age of 9. So it's interesting how these things come together.
Yes, and I'm sure that, I feel that within you is that people tell me, I don't tell them.
Mhm.
When it comes, it comes. They say the soul knows when it's time to reveal something.
Yeah.
I don't go fishing because I'm not as smart as God. And each person has their own way. And this one person I worked with for, about 6 months is a long time for me.
Sure.
So about 4 or 5 months after we worked together, he called me and he said, Lois, and I says, what? He said, I was walking down the steps this morning and all of a sudden this memory comes back at me. I'm in the 2nd grade and I'm like, rambunctious. He was a rambunctious kid, which is it's a good kid because he's like full of energy. And they put him in a straitjacket. And he said, I remember that. That was horrible. That was horrible. I got claustrophobia now. And so we did session on the phone about talking to the little kid and release the shame, guilt that the kid was carrying and all that stuff. But it happened spontaneously.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how would I know that he was, in a straitjacket?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that was, so it just evolves in that way. So I would like to talk about the inner critic if we don't have any.
Oh, yes, yes, definitely.
Okay, because it's important to know that shame guilt doesn't belong to us. They're the one and the same, and we can get rid of it. But we have to know it to get rid of it.
Right. Yes.
And then they sort of leave you alone a little bit because you're like too much trouble. Now,
It's good to be too much trouble for that.
Oh yeah, to those people, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a whole nother story. So the inner critic, we all have an inner critic. Hopefully you only have one.
Yeah.
I had someone that had 3.
Wow.
I know, we were able to work it through. It took more than a couple of months, but we were able. I mean, he's a very powerful person, but he had 3 divergent personalities telling him all this stuff.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. By inner critic, you mean 3 voices or personalities? That it's kind of like what you would call a split personality, I guess. But this is the
no,
critic within him.
Yeah, the critic
within him. Yeah.
Yeah. These are like, this isn't schizophrenia or anything. We all have parts of us. And the inner critic is CEO of your personality. You think you're in charge? No, you're not.
That's what
you're really people. Not.
I tell people that all the time.
Yeah, it's the CEO. So we have to make friends with the inner critic, telling the inner critic to shut up, go away, and call him stupid. That just makes him more angry. Him or she makes them more angry, and they treat you even worse. So, hi, my inner critic is called King. Duh. Why not?
Called King.
So, King. His name is King. Yeah, and he's like, I'm king, you're just a nothing. And I go, wait a minute, we got to make peace here because the emotions, you have the emotions right now. They're not happy. I need to be careful. I need to be in charge. I go, I shut them down a long time ago because you were a wimp and you didn't do anything. And I had to take care of things. But they're living in 1950 or 1960. I'm in 2021. It's the timeline thing. Mm. So I have to say, would you like to come to 2021 and be with me and the kids and all that? But, it isn't like that. It takes, some doing because the inner critic is not going to give up.
Yeah.
And you can't override him. it's a partnership. He's not higher than you. We're partners together. And you have to make him see that it's in his best interest to partner with me. And I said, hey, by the way, I know about shame and guilt now. So I can protect myself. You don't have to babysit me anymore and say, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, because I'm smart now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to prove myself. You know, when people shame me, I just push it back because they're not going to relinquish their job until they know you're safe. I mean, they love you. They love you.
Okay.
They're very dedicated to your well-being, but they only have one thing in their toolkit: shame, guilt, behavior. Because what did our culture teach us? Shame and guilt. What did the church teach us? What did the call? You know, your parent. I mean, everybody. You can't blame anybody. You can only blame shame, guilt. Yeah. So you have to show them that you're capable of taking care of yourself. Like, I'm so much better than I was 20 years ago.
Yeah. Can you give us an example of what an inner critic might do to cause shame, guilt, or to, do you understand what I'm saying? Is an inner critic, as I'm understanding you, someone who tells you that you're not good, that you're
not good, you're stupid, and there's no way you're going to cheat. Why would you do that film? They're just going to laugh at you.
Okay.
And you're stupid. Why do you think I had to come in and take care of everything? Because you were stupid. Yeah, I was stupid at 6 years old because nobody taught me anything, you know. So, but now I'm 78, you know. I learned a few tricks along the way, but he doesn't know that. Gotcha. So it's just a conversation between the two of you. And my film, the third episode, is I'm talking with the inner critic. So, nice. and the film is also, they have the talking. So it's really a tug of war and the stronger the personality you have, the stronger the inner critic is. Okay, so it makes it very interesting. Anyway, so eventually I said, would you like more power? And he goes, oh, now you're talking. If I can get more power, I'll talk to you. I'll make you a partner, but I got to have more power. So I said, you can have more power if you don't babysit me. You can spend time doing other things. Like, would you like to own the garage or park cars? He says, own the garage. I wouldn't park cars. I'm the head of everything.
I'm the king.
And I says, okay, I'm the king.
Yeah.
So I can take care of the emotions. I can protect myself. Maybe not 100%, but 99% of the time, I'm good. I can do this. You need to have another job. And that's what frightens this inner critic, because they don't feel like they're a person. They feel like they're an entity. That's why you personalize your emotions. And then they feel like, you know how people, they're not themselves, they're their job.
Yeah.
But that's how the inner critic is. So he's fearful, like, I can't lose my job because I won't exist. I said, you are a person. You can have a different job. So my inner critic, King, he's still king, travels around the world finding me podcasts.
Nice.
So he's got a new job, and he gets a vacation.
And he gets a vacation.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's a true story.
I believe it.
Because somebody was saying, oh, can I help you get podcasts? They said, how are you doing? I said this. And I said, well, how did you do that? I said, I don't know. I just get podcasts. Like, yeah, I just do. And I said, thanks, King. He goes, okay. So, you know, that other dimension. So yeah, King finds me podcasts. He's my, what they call it, a virtual assistant.
Virtual assistant. Your marketing manager.
My marketing manager.
King. Yeah.
And he doesn't charge me anything.
I'm talking to my inner critic as soon as we get off this podcast. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Now,
I mean it.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I lost it. Anyway, the beauty, and I think you'll get this, some people don't. Now, when I helped my 7-year-old, Julie, to release the shame guilt she carried from talking, couldn't find her sins, and she was going to go to hell because God didn't love her because he died for her, right? Yeah. So we got rid of that shame guilt.
Mhm.
The 7-year-old that was stuck in 1950 came to 2021. I now have the 7-year-old energy. That's how you get younger.
Wow. That is amazing. I love that. That's
Because
very cool.
I look much older than I am today. Believe me.
What? You did? Not now, but you did.
No, but when I did, that's like 10 years ago,
Oh,
15
okay.
years ago.
Okay.
When I did
Because you
that,
don't look your age.
well, I did 20 years ago.
Okay. All
I
right.
had
Well,
really bad gray hair and oh, it was terrible. I mean, I wasn't ugly, but it was like, I was like an old person.
yeah, I understand what you're saying. Well,
And then this,
our existence here is set up for us to age
but
when we don't need
but
to age.
we don't need to age because
We
our
don't need to.
personality parts
Mhm.
are stuck in other timelines. Wouldn't it be interesting? I haven't gotten there, Sharon. Maybe
Okay.
we can talk a long time from
Okay.
now. But if all our timelines, 8-year-old, 12-year-old, teenager, were in our present timeline, maybe that's how we turn the genes on or something. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yes, I love that.
That's what I want to do. I haven't done it yet. I haven't figured it out.
That's
But
so interesting because I just had an out of body experience because I'm an out of body traveler a couple days ago where I'm sitting there talking to someone and I see this wispy entity full of light move toward me and I'm a little because I'm conscious, but I'm a little, who's this? What is this? And I said, okay, if you're of the light, you can come forward. And and it didn't actually hesitate at all, but it enters me and I feel all this beautiful tingling and vibration in my physical body here, but it was in an out of body experience. I felt it there. And then I realized afterwards in meditation that this was a part of me that had integrated within the me here. And now you're talking about this.
yeah. So
I don't know
yeah.
what timeline that was, but that happened
It
a couple
doesn't
days ago.
matter.
It doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't matter.
But it
It
happened
doesn't matter.
a couple days ago, and I'm finding that things like this are happening more and more as we heal and as we move up in frequency. Things are happening more and more where things start to come together, and it's
Yeah.
not even like it's a timeline anymore. It's just
It's all together.
yeah.
But people can understand. I say timeline because people can understand that.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it's where the time thing is moving away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how jumpstart can we become if we release the shame guilt that we are carrying and our frequency just explodes up? Because the only thing is holding us back is the energy of shame guilt. That's all. That's all. That's depression, anxiety. Your mother doesn't love you. You don't like your mother. I mean, it's just all there. It's just shame guilt energy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It has what 1,000 names: procrastination and indifference and
yeah, that's
so,
at the crux of it, all of it. I've seen that in my work too. So thank you for confirming that. Definitely.
so I'm just when I worked in Sedona, when I lived in Sedona, I was doing this work and a couple people came to me who were psychics. And well, some of them said they never had any shame guilt. And I went, okay, whatever,
Yeah.
it's I don't care, but the people that did come and experience my work after they released it, some shame guilt, not like, didn't do many sessions, just one or two, and released a lot of it and worked with the inner critic, their psychic abilities went through the roof.
Wow. Yeah.
So it wasn't that they did more spiritual initiations or anything. They just released shame guilt because that's the only, we are ready that way. Yeah. And I wonder if the genes will turn on if we release more and more shame guilt energy.
How could they not? Right?
I know. This is so exciting.
So your work is returning people to how we really are.
Yes. I mean, it's so important. I go like, how can it never have been that someone didn't take shame guilt by itself and make it an independent study? I'm like, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
So that's why I said, I'm going to do that because nobody else did it. So,
Thank you, God. Thank you, Lois. Thank you, God, for sending Lois to us. Yes. Wow. That's yeah. I'm flabbergasted.
so am I. It's just, and
It
we
just
need
kind of,
all. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
We
No,
need
you.
all the light that we can possibly bring here to Earth. And the more shame guilt we release, the more light we can give. Because the only thing holding us back is that. That's it. There's nothing else. I mean, it's so sick. You know, I'm just, you know, just blows my mind. And then some people don't get it. And the one podcast I'm going to, she said, I think you're on the wrong podcast because this is an emotion. You're talking about energy. Energy doesn't really exist. I said, I think we're in the wrong wavelength. And thank you so much. And my fault, you know, whatever. So, you know, you can't talk to everybody. You can't talk to everybody.
Yeah, that's hard to fathom that somebody in this day and age would say energy doesn't exist when everything is energy, and science.
I hear you. So it's like,
science
okay.
already knows that.
Yeah. So I, you know,
Oh,
so
well.
I went, oh, I said, thank you, God, for showing me that because I have a lot of work to do.
Well, yeah. And also if you start, you know, there's sometimes I kind of feel that as you know, as we work with people, and if there's not that jive, at least you got in that door a little bit. You got the foot in the door.
That's all
you need
is a crack.
Right.
And I have many people, not so much now with the podcast, but before I would give lectures and so forth and so on. And like a year later, they would call and say, Lois, I finally understand what you're saying. Can I have a talk with you? And I went, fine.
Yeah.
You crack.
Exactly.
Just need a crack. So I help make a crack.
Sometimes, like you said, that's all we need. You know, and
well, it's true.
People ready when they're ready.
Yeah. But the ones that are ready can blossom.
Yeah. And everyone in their own time. And yeah, I just see it as the way we are now with the shame guilt is not our natural state. So
no.
we're coming back to our natural state now. When people
natural
say, oh,
blueprint.
People say I'm not psychic. I'm like, yes, you are. Yes, you are. It's just been hidden from you. It's hidden.
By shame guilt is hidden.
Yeah.
Is the cover of you.
So
and,
it's interesting. I find it I was going to say this a little while ago, but I'll say it now. So the shame guilt is the weapon that they used. They meaning the demonic forces. I'm going to call them demonic forces.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
That they use. That was their weapon.
Yes. And it dissolves in detection. And Sansoon, what did he say? Know thy enemy. So I tell people they don't want to. I said, if you don't want to hear about how you're going to defeat it,
right,
you have to know. And that's one of my books is like, I give the characteristics of shame, guilt, what it is, so you can know your enemy. What do they say? You're close to your friend, but you're closer to your enemies.
Right. Yeah, The Art of War. I have that book actually, but it's well, hey, and we're in a war.
I wanted to mention the readings I've done is
please.
that I have discovered by people telling me that when they feel the shame guilt energy and they're really kind of stuck, if they read my words, it gets them out of the hole. It doesn't get rid of it all, but they are now able to process it. They're not stuck. And it's just the way the words come. God talks, I write. I'm just the secretary. So I have that on my website.
Sure. I definitely. Yeah. So do you teach this work to anyone? Yet?
Not really, because they don't really get it yet. And I had some therapists that came to me because their patients got well and didn't need them anymore. And they want to know what I was doing. So I said, okay, because they were like, one had 4 years and one was 2 years. And they spent 2 hours with me and they were fine.
Yeah.
And so they wouldn't know what I was doing. And I said, well, you have to go through the process first, but you can't teach something unless you own it.
Mhm.
And they went, well, and they talked about it, and they said, well, we're not really interested because we take care of our clients on more of a long range project rather than short like you do. And I went, yep, I know you get more money that way. It's okay. I mean, but like you, I'd answer to God. So,
Yeah.
it's not I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
So
I totally know
the
what you're talking
typical
about.
therapist doesn't want to talk to me.
Okay.
That's
You're taking
okay.
away all their clients. And nothing against therapy,
But it did
mainstream
help me
therapy
out
is
because I
fine.
really needed talking when I was
Sure,
suicidal.
sure.
But that's step one. Where do I
Right.
go from here?
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
all. But
Totally. Yeah, I get
not
it.
yet. But we'll see where it goes. I mean, I can't
Right.
teach the world, but
You, well, you can by teaching a few people and then it spreads out,
well,
right?
that's what I mean. I mean, I
Yeah,
can, so we'll see where God takes it all. But
sure, sure.
they have to have the ability, like you do, to, go into those dimensions,
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but anyway, any questions you have?
Um, so I do have one question that comes to mind is you note that shame and guilt or shame guilt, not and guilt, shame guilt are the biggest blockage to connecting to our higher self. So you mean connection in this realm, in this life. But so when it comes to reincarnation, that cycle of reincarnation, would you agree and would you say that it also affects our choices? How do I put it? That
And coming
reincarnation
back
trap,
and come
that
back, the
that
karma,
trap,
Yeah,
because I see it as a trap,
it is
basically.
a trap. It's a
Okay.
karmic trap.
Right.
And when I have worked with myself and some other people, it's the same shame guilt that's in the prior. So it's the shame guilt that is carried from lifetime to lifetime. And I went, oh my God, that's karma.
Okay. So when we're in that, when we leave this, drop this body and we're in the afterlife and we're there looking over our life and everything like that, and then we make that choice to come back, would you, because you work with the Akashic records, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Would you see that as it's been hidden from us on that level because we're not able to get high enough, perhaps?
Exactly.
We're
It
not able to
stops
get
our
high enough.
spiritual growth. It
Okay.
stops our spiritual growth. It's
Not
like
just here, but there.
there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it affects our spiritual life.
Right.
It affects our mental capacities. People have called me and say, Lois, you know what? I'm smarter. I said, I am too. When you get rid of the shame guilt, you have more brain cells on the good part, not the bad part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, I'm not going into the brainstem and this, there's some, but I mean, to just suffice that you have more of you not covered by shame guilt. So you get smarter, you get younger, you are able to talk to spirit more. My writings have gotten so much better since the more, access I have and the less shame guilt I have.
The more light
And
filled.
yeah, and your physical body is healthier because all your meridians are not bombarded with distorted energies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, your liver's not going to work right if it's all distorted with the anger and those sorts. And I don't go into organs. I just go to shame guilt because like that, it's like you have a leak in your house. And after it rains, you have to mop up the floor and mop up the floor. And then the next time it rains, you got to mop up the floor again. Well, doesn't it make more sense to fix the hole in the roof?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what I mean. It's like, why would I just see so many projects and works and courses that people have, but they get you to first base.
Mhm.
And by the time you do 7 or 8 of them, you get more shame guilt because you think, oh my God, I just spent $1,000 and I'm still in guilt. And they feel even worse. Now, some people aren't ready for it, but you got to introduce it to see if they're even ready. I mean,
Right.
because a lot of people come to me and says, I think I would love to do your work, but I think I'm just too stupid. And I go, why do you say that? Because I took these 4 courses and I'm not any better. I said, that's not your fault, is that the course didn't identify shame and guilt. And until you get rid of that, you're still going to be stuck on second base.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents for the day.
Okay. That sounds like 5 cents to me. Okay. That's some good advice. All right. So we are pretty much out of time here. Do you have any parting words of wisdom or advice on how people in their everyday life can
Shame, guilt is not ours to own or to give. And when shame, guilt, you feel that, you go, okay, that goes over there. Now, how do I feel? I feel depressed. Okay, hi, depression. How are you? Thank you so much for coming to see me. So I'm working with my emotions. I don't get rid of my emotions. And the ego is beautiful. We need our ego. People say, oh, get rid of your ego. It's the shame, guilt around the ego that makes the ego so forth bad.
Okay.
So you just, it's sticky. It's like taffy.
Mhm.
It sticks to you. I
I
see
can't
it as
believe
taffy.
I actually used to eat that stuff. Ugh.
Oh, I did too. I
Yeah.
did too. I mean, hey, and yeah. But hey, we have a very good body. It adapts.
Yeah. Yeah. It gets rid of it after a little while. All right. Thank you. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Lois. I've learned so much from you. And it's just amazing the work you do. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your light on the planet.
Well, thank you, and thank God because He kept me going.
Thank you, God.
Yeah.
Always thanking God for all the blessings, and
Oh,
you were
I
definitely
wanted
blessing.
to
Okay.
say one thing if I had a
Sure.
couple minutes.
Of course.
What I've noticed, especially when I do groups,
Mhm.
like Stardust is my light soul part. Her name is Stardust. I went, okay, I'll call you Stardust.
Nice.
She communicated with Gertrude in the next person. They talk together. Like my husband, his parts start talking because I was with him. Energetically, when you it's like the 100 monkey theory. Once I start doing it, then these parts ping you, and your inner critic now starts talking. So when your relationship, it automatically he wakes up and he says, I was just talking to George. I said, who's George? He said, oh, he's the guy that does this stuff. I'm going, that's what happens energetically. These parts they live between spirit and the physical world.
Okay.
So they're able to talk to others that are in the spirit world. And if you're in close relationship or in a group, they all start talking together and they start helping each other come forward.
That's nice because we're all connected.
Of course.
All connected. Yes.
We're all connected, and the inner parts of us want to connect with other inner parts. Like I want to connect with you, but my depression, my anxiety, or sweetheart wants to talk with Gertrude, the other person's part. I mean, it's like, it's awesome. Yeah. And then I saw this visual of that when I do session, I feel so good. And sweetheart and Stardust are like dancing because they got another person in spirit that they can talk to.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to do this. Okay. And I can't wait to watch your films as well. And I'm going to buy your books too, because this is just, the whole world needs to know about this.
I agree.
Yeah, definitely.
So I got a long life ahead of me.
You have a long life. And as we heal, our life gets longer, right? Because
It's true. It's
we're
true.
healthier, we're not aging like they tell us that, we need to
Well,
do.
and Alzheimer's, of course it's, chemicals and so forth and so on, but people that don't acknowledge the interpersonality parts of ourselves,
Mhm.
they leave,
Mm,
they die, and that's when they don't remember anything, and they're just not there anymore because their inner parts they can't hold that much shame, guilt that long. Most people I talk with are not that old because they already have given up and they bought the idea that they're dying and so forth and so on. And it's very difficult they don't have the mindset to do this work. And that's okay. They just have eternity's long for everybody. So,
exactly. Yeah.
but Alzheimer's is related to not doing interpersonality work.
Mm, okay.
Interesting, isn't it?
That is interesting.
Because one of my parts was like, are you the one to love me? I have but one last breath.
Oh, oh,
Because I was so abused.
yeah.
All that shame, guilt. She was Sweetheart, her name was. All that shame, guilt she was holding, she couldn't breathe any longer, hardly.
Wow. And you do this in meditation or sitting in
No,
reflection?
just like I'm talking to you.
Like this? Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
because if I did it in hypnosis or something, the inner critic would be blocked. And you don't want to block the inner critic because they get really upset.
Okay. Yeah.
They're very important. The king, yep, we're very important.
As he knows. Okay.
No, I just talk to them like I'm talking to you.
That's so funny because I talk to my parts like that. I guess it's my parts. I talk to myself. I just say I talk to myself all the time,
Exactly.
And
But now you can have a part of you that's then you can make it more effective
okay.
because you're talking directly to one part
Right. That makes sense.
who is a living person inside of you.
Wow.
The more life they have, the more life you have.
Beautiful.
That's my nickel for the day.
That's your nickel. Okay. It's a dime now. Okay.
Oh,
It
it's a
just
dime.
keeps going
Okay.
up. Just keeps going up. Okay. Thank you so much, Lois. And I would love to have you on here again sometime if you have
Yeah,
the
and
time.
we can do questions. People can write in questions that I can answer them because
Yeah.
it's really good to everybody has a different concept, so that's why it's hard to do a general, but it's a good opening.
Yeah, we can do a live podcast where people can
I
come
love
in.
them. They're so
Okay.
much fun.
Okay.
And I want to ask you a question after this
Okay.
session. So
Sure. All right. Yes. Stay. Don't leave. I'm just going to say goodbye to our peeps here, our beautiful people that are here. Thank you so much for being here. And I know that you got a lot out of this conversation with Lois here. I know. How could you not, right? So yeah. So please like, subscribe, share, the whole normal YouTube thing. And I'll see you again soon. Thank you, Lois.
thank you.